Dr. Elias steps onto the island of Bali, surrounded by an ecosystem that feels entirely familiar to the Asian mainland. The jungles are prowled by tigers, foraged by bears, and populated by troops of macaques. If she gets on a boat and heads east, she only has to travel 20 miles across the water to reach the neighboring island of Lombok. Stepping ashore, the temperature is the same. The tropical plant life looks identical, but the tigers, the bears, and the monkeys are completely gone. Instead, Lombok is inhabited by marsupials, giant monitor lizards, and birds of paradise displaying highly specialized, vibrant plumage. A 20-mile boat ride has somehow bypassed an absolute biological boundary, depositing us into an entirely separate evolutionary world. In the mid-19th century, the British explorer Alfred Russel Wallace noticed this exact discrepancy. He couldn't understand why species that easily spread across thousands of miles of mainland suddenly stopped at this tiny gap of water. He plotted animal distribution across the archipelago, drawing a hard line straight down between Bali and Lombok, continuing north between Borneo and Sulawesi. Everything to the west belonged to the Asian biological zone. Everything east was Australasian. Many of these animals are strong swimmers, and the birds can easily fly 20 miles. Something immense had to be enforcing this strict quarantine. To locate that barrier, we have to look back 50 million years into the Earth's history, examining the deep geological forces that culminated in the freezing conditions of the Pleistocene Ice Age. During the Pleistocene, massive global glaciers locked up millions of cubic miles of ocean water. Global sea levels dropped roughly 400 feet below where they sit today. Looking at a topographical map of the region during this freeze, we can see the shallow seas draining away. The Asian mainland extended far southward, forming a solid land bridge that connected directly to Bali. To the east, the receding waters unified Australia, New Guinea, and Lombok into a single massive supercontinent known as Sahul. Asian predators simply walked through continuous forests to reach Bali. Meanwhile, giant marsupials migrated freely across Sahul, eventually grazing on the western edge of Lombok. The modern islands we see are actually the flooded highlands of two distinct prehistoric continents, which were parked right next to each other, separated by a remarkably narrow gap. That specific gap between Bali and Lombok is known today as the Lombok Strait. Beneath its churning surface, the ocean floor drops off violently into a dark, abyssal trench, carved by shifting tectonic plates. This trench is so exceptionally deep that even when the Ice Age drained the surrounding oceans by 400 feet, this specific channel remained flooded. The fast-moving, deep water created a permanent physical moat. It stopped Asian predators from walking any further east, and it blocked Australasian marsupials from migrating west. Continental drift had secretly forged an underwater wall, using the Earth itself as a sorting mechanism for survival. Returning to the present day, we can observe the long-term results of this biological quarantine. On the western side, placental mammals, creatures that develop their young internally inside a womb, outcompeted other species and dominated the Asian landscape. On the eastern side, marsupials raised their underdeveloped young in pouches. Shielded from the highly efficient Asian apex predators, they thrived and diversified. This isolation allowed animals like tree kangaroos to adapt to the dense, mist-covered branches of the Australasian rainforest canopy. Without the fierce competition found on the mainland, evolution on the eastern side of the strait became highly experimental, producing animals with highly specialized and bizarre traits. The Wallace Line stands as physical proof that biology is entirely a hostage to the power of deep geological forces. Today, that strict geological quarantine is facing a new variable: rapid global travel, agriculture, and international trade. Local populations and global commerce continuously move across the strait, bringing foreign flora and fauna with them on ferries and cargo ships. Through these actions, we are effectively bridging a physical barrier that the Earth maintained for 50 million years. When invasive species bypass these natural geographic defenses, they enter ecosystems that never evolved to withstand them, placing immense pressure on native populations. These incredibly distinct, ancient environments are now undergoing a forced integration. If human activity successfully erases a biological wall built over tens of millions of years, the ultimate cost will be the loss of the planet's most specialized and unique diversity.